Days of Our Lives. Stefano's final will creates major problems for EJ. The phoenix may have finally turned to ash, but his fire is about to burn Salem to the ground. After decades of presumed deaths, shocking resurrections, and enough manipulation to fill several psychological textbooks, Stefano de Mera's long-awaited funeral has come and gone. However, just as his children began to mourn the man they could never quite escape, the late de Mera patriarch has proven, once again, that death is no obstacle to controlling the family narrative. The reading of Stefano's final will is set to air the week of February 23 to 27, and spoilers indicate it will not be a staid, legal formality, but rather a detonation that threatens to split the de Mera dynasty in two. For E.J. de Mera, Dan Feuerriegel, who has spent his entire life trying to earn the approval of a ghost, this should have been his coronation. As the de facto head of the family and current power player in Salem, he fully expects the document to cement his legacy. But if there is one rule Stefano lived by, it was to never let his heirs rest easy. The will is reportedly packed with shocking stipulations that prey on old rivalries and create new ones, turning a family gathering into a battlefield. With the recent departures of key legacy characters like Johnny de Mera, the family is already in a state of flux, making this internal war particularly dangerous for those who remain. The usual suspects and unexpected heirs. The reading will bring together a room full of suspects, each with a valid claim to the de Mera pie and a history of violence to back it up. Kristen de Mera, Stacey Heideck, will be present, and her recent feud with EJ has reached a fever pitch. Following the trauma of the family's crypt kidnapping and her ongoing battle with EJ over her daughter Rachel's stay in Bayview, Kristen is in no mood to be slighted by her brother or their father's ghost. Any perceived favoritism towards EJ in the will could be the spark that ignites a war she has been threatening to start for months. Then there is Gabby Hernandez, Cherie Jimenez, the widow of Stefano's son, Stefan. Gabby has clawed her way into the de Mera fortune before, and as Stefan's legal widow, she is poised to receive a substantial slab of the empire. This prospect is a nightmare for EJ, who has never viewed Gabby as a true de Mera. The thought of sharing, or worse, losing, control of de Mera Enterprises to the woman he views as a scheming outsider is enough to make his blood boil. Compounding this is the recent revelation that Vivian Alamain, Louise Sorrell, has returned to town with a convincing tale about Stefan, which could complicate Gabby's standing or her claim, adding another layer of uncertainty to the proceedings. EJ's House of Cards. The timing of this will reading could not be worse for EJ. He is currently navigating a precarious tightrope. His relationship with Cat Green, Annalyn McCord, is deepening, but his paranoia is getting the better of him. Spoilers suggest he will soon begin investigating her loyalties, unaware that she is conducting her own investigation into him with Rafe Hernandez Galen Gearing. More importantly, EJ's grip on the family legacy comes at a time when the de Mera name is undergoing a significant identity crisis. In a shocking real-life parallel that echoes on-screen, Billy Flynn has exited the role of Chad de Mera, with his final episodes recently airing. Chad has left Salem with his children, seeking to honor Abigail's memory away from the de Mera chaos. This departure leaves a massive power vacuum. Chad was often the moral compass of the family, the de Mera who tried to be better than his father. With him gone, the moderating influence has vanished, leaving the floor to the unbridled ambitions of EJ and the unchecked rage of Kristen. Furthermore, Johnny de Mera's recent exit from the canvas means EJ's own son is no longer around to either support him or challenge his worldview. Stefano's will is therefore landing in a nest that is already empty of its more rational birds. The Phoenix's final puzzle. What could Stefano possibly have written to cause such chaos? Historically, Stefano's greatest joy was pitting his children against each other, viewing it as a crucible to forge the strongest heir. This will likely contain a classic DiMera puzzle box, perhaps a condition that requires EJ and Kristen to work together to unlock the full inheritance, a prospect that seems impossible given their current hatred for one another. Alternatively, the will could legitimize Gabby's place in the family, forcing EJ to answer to her on the DiMera board. Given that EJ has recently had to eat crow and work with enemies like Paulina Price to protect his secrets, being forced to bow to Gabby might be the final straw that breaks his composure. There is also the lingering possibility that Stefano, ever the chess master, set in motion a contingency plan involving the newly recast Chad DiMera Connor Floyd, who is waiting in the wings. Perhaps the will stipulates that should Chad ever wish to return, the entire empire must pivot to him, leaving EJ as a mere placeholder. As the DiMeras gather to hear Stefano's final words, one thing is certain: the man who built an empire on manipulation has crafted his masterpiece from beyond the grave. EJ may have thought he was finally stepping out of his father's shadow, but instead, he is about to walk directly into Stefano's final, and most cruel, trap. The week of February 23 promises to be a turning point for Days of Our Lives, proving that in Salem, the dead are never truly gone, especially when they have a will of iron.